time for our first official guest of the ListenABLE podcast.
And boy, do we have a ripper.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Ben Pettingill. I'm a professional speaker, athlete, and pretty down to earth.
You are, mate. And what is your disability?
I am blind, so 98% of my eyesight gone.
What does 2% of vision look like?
It's a difficult question because it's a bit hard for me to show you a picture and say, yeah, well, that's exactly what I can see because I can't really judge the picture.
Yeah, of course.
Went to a graphic designer one day, tried to describe it, and then they said to me, so is this what you can see? I was like, well, that was the worst idea I've ever had. But the way I best describe it is, imagine in the center of your vision, there's a big blind spot, so a big circle. And do you remember the old analog television when you used to get the static? The black, white, and grey fuzzy dots.
Yeah, of course.
And they'd move around a little bit. Imagine those dots every single colour of the rainbow. So a solid ball of flicking and flashing lights, every single colour of the rainbow, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether your eyes are open or closed.
Okay.
Oh, wow. So you sleep with that vision.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the thing. So we, as someone who's full vision, you shut your eyes and you can switch off, turn off, I guess. That remains no matter if your eyes are closed or open. How do you then tell your brain to switch off?
I don't do it consciously, but I think the best way I can describe it is if you had a song playing, the same song, for 10 years straight, you soon wouldn't hear it. You just get used to it. It's like when someone's got ringing in their ears. They get used to it. So if I concentrate on it, then it's there and it's distracting. It can give me a headache.
It's your normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it's normal. And then around the edges, around my peripheral vision, it's like looking through a really, really thick pane of frosted glass. So you can just see black, white, and grey, blurry shadows and
Now,
shapes.
The reason that you can talk about frosted glass, you can talk about analog television, is that you weren't born blind, Ben.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us? Yeah.
Oh, could you take us back to, I guess, your childhood, what it was like growing up? Tell us your story.
Yeah, for sure. So childhood, very, very typical able-bodied childhood, playing sport, loved being outdoors, basketball, footy, cricket, water skiing, you name it, I loved it.
Good country boy, aren't you?
That's it.
Yeah, boy.
Didn't have a worry in the world. And I was one of those kids that used to sit right up the back of the classroom thinking I was probably cooler than I actually was. And I remember one day really clearly in science class looking at the diagram the teacher was drawing on the board and something didn't seem quite right. That seemed a tiny, tiny little bit blurry. And when I say blurry, sort of like that haze that you see when you look at the sun for a couple of seconds too long, then when you look away.
Yeah.
It's that tiny little bit blurry.
Great example.
And it just takes a couple of seconds then just to readjust to normal vision.
How old were you then?
16.
Okay.
So
how did that make you scared at the time?
Yeah,
or
did you
didn't
tell your
think much of
parents?
it?
So at this point in time, I've turned my best mate, Stu, who was sitting in class beside me. I've gone, mate, can you see this? Like, is it something that is in the classroom or is it me? What's going on? And then the more I started to think about it, the more I noticed it. I noticed it in my textbook, noticed it looking around the classroom, not just on the board. And I just had that gut instinct, that intuition that we all get from time to time, that something's not quite right, but you can't put your finger on exactly what it is. It's just that sick sort of feeling in your stomach. And part of me didn't want to say anything, but part of me knew I should. So I turned to my dad, who always gave me great advice, and I thought, he'll know what to do. Typical dad, he's just gone, well, mate, don't worry about it. We'll just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I was like, gee, thanks, Dad.
Good on you, mate.
But problem was then Dad then called Mum. I didn't know that. And all of a sudden, as soon as Mum finds out, we're off to hospital. So 6 hours later, we spend getting all these different tests done in emergency, all these different special pieces of equipment where the doctors are looking into the back of my eye, trying to figure out what was going on.
How are you feeling, mate, during this?
At this point in time, running on adrenaline.
Okay.
And I was a pretty cool, calm and collected kid. So when you're just getting something checked out, you think, you don't necessarily go worst case scenario. You're just thinking at the time, oh, well, we'll just go and get this sorted and walk out that afternoon. It's not going to turn into a big thing. And the doctor said the exact same thing. 6 hours went past. We ended up in the tiny little room with the doctor, and the doctor said, now, Ben, we've discovered what's going on. You've got an inflammation of your optic nerve, which is the cord that runs between the back of your eye and your brain and transfers all the images that our eyes see for our brain to understand them. That's inflamed. It's bigger than it should be. Don't worry about it, mate. It'll only take 1 month to fix. We'll put you on a course of steroids. So I've thought, great. Steroids, hopefully he gets that wrong. And
Probably sense of relief.
Yeah, and puts the good
I was going to
steroids
say,
in.
hang on, you get your eyes back and you get massive triceps.
Big
Yeah,
gains.
that sounds good.
that's what I was thinking. Doctor soon shut me down on that one. I'd never heard of medical steroids, obviously. And so I was just fully trusting in the doctor. I went up to the top level of the Ionia Hospital in Melbourne, had the steroid drip put in, and Mum and Dad left for the night, promising they'd be back first thing in the morning. The next morning when I woke up, I opened my eyes and everything that I'd seen in that hospital room the night before was gone.
So, when you opened up your eyes, did you think you were still asleep because you couldn't see? Or did you know you were awake?
It was like a nightmare. Yeah. I didn't know I was fully awake. And then the longer I looked around, I started looking for my phone that I'd put on the bedside table the night before. That was gone. I looked towards the end of the bed where the TV was hanging on that little curtain rail. That was gone. So then I thought, what's still here that I definitely know is still here? Because they're all things that were out of my reach. I could feel my hands on the ends of my arms. So I held one hand up in front of my face and I couldn't even see that. And it was at that moment that I just buried my head back in the pillow and went straight into denial.
Just hoping to wake up from a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah, basically. And waiting until a doctor came in, Mum came in, Dad came in, someone that I knew.
So did you start screaming? Did you start yelling or did you wait in the darkness?
It was just shock. It was just shock and silence.
So you went from, a little bit of blurred vision, like you gave that example of the looking at the sunlight. You're on an overnight steroid drip, and you wake up with, basically no. Was it gradual? Did you have at that point 60%, and over the time it's slowly deteriorated to you now 2% vision, or was it bang all gone?
Gone.
Wow. Jeez.
So how did everyone react around you? Like when your family came in and that, was there disbelief? Did they not believe you at first?
Who's the first person I was going to say who's the first person you saw, but who's the first person who came in that room?
Honestly, I can't remember.
Wow.
Because it was that much adrenaline in my body at that point in time. I couldn't even tell you what happened that day. I know what happened, but not in the specific order of events. I know Mum came back to the hospital and she was there, but before that, I reckon I spoke to a doctor and this is when it first sort of passed down the line to the doctor. I had a nurse come in to give me the breakfast menu. And I said, I can't read the breakfast menu. And she's like, oh, here, I'll give you a magnifying glass. Just the general way the Ionia deal with it. I'll give you a magnifying glass. No, still can't see anything. I can't even see the piece of paper she's holding there. So once she knew that, then she told a nurse. The nurse got a doctor. Doctor came back. And then it took 2 weeks until they did a whole range of different tests to discover that it wasn't an inflammation of my optic nerve like they first thought.
So I was going to ask that. So it was a misdiagnosis originally?
Yeah. No, and it appears the exact same. So through the equipment they were looking at, it looks the exact same, but it turns out that it was a rare genetic syndrome called Leber's Hereditary Optic Neuropathy, or blind as I like to call it. I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to say that again, so I might as well just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then the doctor said then and there 2 weeks later, Ben, I'm really, really sorry, but this is actually incurable. It can't be fixed and you'll be blind for life.
Why do you think we have all those weird names for like disabilities? Like mine is, I was born with a lipomeningular seal, and I'm like, I'm just fucking a paraplegic. Like, let's just not fuck around with it. It's just so much easier.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's so true. It happens across all disabilities as well.
Yeah, if you're a doctor, you've got to give a diagnosis. It's got to at least have 4 syllables.
It's got to pretend like you've just studied. Well, they have studied.
Yeah,
it's
I was going to say, they've studied for 7 years, so they've got to know more words than you and I put together.
Justification.
So, do you know if that by putting you on that steroid drip, that tracked the condition that you had, were you always going to go blind no matter what happened?
Yes, I was always going to go blind.
Right.
I don't know, is the honest answer. And
you don't hold any grudges or...
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I can't go back and change it. And if I didn't get the steroids, maybe it may have taken a week. It might have taken a month.
Okay.
It may not have. It might have happened overnight. The doctors do think that the steroids wouldn't have affected it, but obviously you can put 2 and 2 together and go, well, maybe it did. At the end of the day, it was going to happen. So got it over and done with pretty quick.
All right, so you wake up and you're blind. What straight away? I mean, I couldn't even imagine how hard everything is to do. But what was the biggest challenges straight away? What was the things you struggled with the most?
Straight away, it was denial.
Yeah.
And literally for 2 months, I went about life like nothing had changed.
Okay.
And because, probably different to you, Dill, I'd woken up every single day for 16 years, 365 days a year, and being able to see. So you take that away, it's very, very hard to then wake up the next morning and just go, okay, well, I can't see. Naturally, for 2 months, I was waking up going, well, why can't I see? And that mixed with a why me mentality. But I was just in complete and utter denial. There was that tiny bit inside the back of my head going, this is real. But there was so much more of inside my head going, this isn't real. And this is just a nightmare. And this will be fixed. I was going to bed with the learner's book on the bedside table beside me, going, oh, well, tomorrow I'll wake up and be able to read this. But there was something inside me that knew that wasn't the case, but I was in that much denial that that's what I was doing. So it took until 2 months when I was walking into school one day. I wasn't using a white cane. I was just walking next to sort of friends and my
You're
sister.
back at school 2 months after this happened.
I was back at school 2 days later
What?
because I was just in denial,
Right.
running on adrenaline.
And everyone's talking to you like nothing's happened?
And are you telling them, oh, it's fine, it's like I'll get my sight back? Is that the kind of denial you're in?
Not that I'd get it back,
Okay.
but that it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, that's a non-issue. Yeah, exactly.
It's a non-issue. It doesn't change anything. It's all good. And during that adrenaline rush, the teachers were fantastic at my school, where they were then doing work behind the scenes to figure out how to get my work to an accessible level so that I could start to do my work again. But they just thought the best thing for me is to get back in the classroom from the social aspect.
It's so funny. All kids try and get out of school, but then when something happens to you, where do you want to go straight away?
Yeah,
School.
back to school.
You don't go,
Back with your mates.
what a great excuse. I'm blind. I can have 2 weeks off. It's like, no.
What am I going to do?
I want to go back to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how we are as people.
Yeah, so sat in the classroom for 2 months, literally just for the social aspect. And after that 2 months had passed, it was sort of that light bulb moment where I was walking to school one day. It was freezing cold and the sun was rising sort of into my eyes, which gave an extra glare through where I can normally pick just the odd shape and shadow. And because I'd been able to see my school for the 4 years previously, I had mapped it out pretty easily. It was a small school. I could navigate it okay with the help of my friends the whole time. And I was walking to school. My sister had caught up with a couple of her friends that were walking at the same time. So I said, no, you go, I'll be right. I know the way from here. And 20 metres later, walked headfirst into a pole. Now, that was the moment.
Is that what happened to your face?
No, a lot's happened to
You
my
wouldn't know,
face.
Ben, but it's bad.
It's bad. Thanks, mate. I've always wanted someone to give me the honest truth.
We'll
knew I
get to,
came
you're a
in
very
for a
hot
reason.
guy. We'll get to that a bit later on.
But that was the moment. That was the moment that
The denial
left.
went, and you realised this is the life that I'm now living.
Yep. I have to accept it. I can't change it. And in order to move forward, I've got to own it.
So what about day-to-day activities? So like what was the toughest things to learn, and what were things that you realised, it's actually not as hard as you think to do this actually when you are blind?
Well, it's funny. You probably think a lot of things are harder than they actually are before you lose your eyesight. Or if you imagine what life's like to be blind, you go, that would be hard, that would be hard, that would be hard. And they are. But when you're forced to learn and you don't have a choice, you learn them pretty quickly. I mean, from the tiniest things that I'd never even thought about, like pouring myself a cup of water. First time I did it, hand got wet. All right, how am I going to do it the second time? Put a finger in the top. When the water hits my finger, I know when to stop.
See, bang.
So
It's so cool.
Yeah.
you just, I suppose, learn by making mistakes. And my parents were
from
great in saying, well, you're going to make mistakes. And once you make them, then we find a way around it.
And can you just talk briefly about like technology and accessibility these days is incredible. Like you just before you came in was on your iPhone. Like you have a phone like everybody else. Like what systems, like how do you do that and other things that people probably think you can't use?
Yeah. Well, mate, Siri and I
Wow.
Best
We are,
mates.
we are best.
I tell you what you're good at, and I mean this, and I want everybody to go check it out. You are really good at Instagram for a guy that can't see the photos.
Am I?
You are. You got like 4,000 followers. They're good content. So is that all through Siri?
That's, predominantly all through Siri. Obviously, I've got people that I can show the photo to and go, hey, is this the photo that I think it is?
Oh, that's so dangerous, bro.
It is.
That could be nudes.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And it is dangerous, but
Got a lot of trust in
the
your
other-
family and friends.
the other thing with it is I also use my memory a lot in terms of I remember that if I took a photo today, what date it is, roughly what time it is. So if I'm going back through my photo roll, then all it says to me, Siri doesn't describe what the photo is. She'll just say the date and the time. And I'll go, well, that's where I was
Wow.
and when I was. So it's going to be one of those 3 photos that I took.
So yeah, it's such an incredible opportunity to have Siri in your pocket. I guess, I don't really
Don't
use
get me
Siri.
wrong, it's a love-hate relationship.
Right, okay. But you'd know all the Siri hacks. What kind of other features does that technology have that aid you in day-to-day? If you get lost, do you ask Siri where you are or?
All the time.
Okay, wow.
All the time. Because if I get a cab driver to drop me off somewhere and they say, yep, you're at this location, and I walk out and all of a sudden I walk into the building that I thought I was meant to go into, and I go, no, this doesn't feel right. This isn't a bar or a restaurant. This is an office space or something different. If I don't feel comfortable in knowing exactly where to go or if it feels really quiet, I'll just walk back out on the street. I'll have one earphone in most of the time when I'm walking down the street.
Okay.
And I'll go, hey, Siri, what is my current location? And she'll go, bang, this is the address. And I can then just go walking directions to the address I need to go to. And she'll direct me through my ear the whole time.
Oh, wow.
So it's absolutely fantastic. There's
So you are cheating. So you're actually getting more help than I
cheating.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Question for you. Do you ever get FOMO about what people are seeing? Now, I don't necessarily mean like, the Grand Canyon and a helicopter tour, but I'm talking about like, I'll give you the worst example in the world. You wouldn't have seen it, Ben, but a couple of years ago, there was a viral dress and people saw either gold and white or blue and black. And it was kind of this thing that divided, like, I see this, I see that.
Yeah.
Because you can't see any of it, do you get FOMO? Because you're missing out on that kind of, I don't know.
FOMO, there's probably a percentage of that. And then I get told all the time, you just don't get it. You don't get the internet these days. You don't get memes because I've never seen memes.
You've never seen a meme?
Oh, bro, you haven't seen a meme. Of course.
Amazing. A
So,
GIF.
yeah, haven't seen one.
A GIF.
But then people go to me, and I just say, well, you're just wasting your time on all this stuff because they spend half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour just scrolling through these things, talking about them. I go, surely we could talk about something better. And they
Yeah.
go, oh, you're
More
just so
enrichment.
old and boring. I go, well, what else am I going to do?
You are listening to ListenABLE, and we're going to hear more about things that you might miss out on that a little later on, Ben. But I've got to ask, we've got to change of pace now because not only are you a great bloke, as we're finding out, you are a very talented man as well who has never let his disability get in the way of the things that you wanted to do. Now, there's a few things here that we want to talk about. First and foremost, your experience in trekking the Kokoda track. So you've done that how many times?
Twice.
Both times as
Yep.
vision impaired?
Both times within the last 2 years.
You have. Okay, so why in hell did you want to do that?
First of all, why do it once, then why do it twice?
Exactly. Why do it again?
That's what I'm saying. Right?
Just for people, I mean, I know what the Kokoda Trail is, but for people who might be listening internationally,
Yep.
Can you tell people what the Kokoda Trail and what it
So
entails?
96-kilometre trail through the Papua New Guinean jungle, and it's a track that follows in the footsteps that the Australian soldiers and the Japanese soldiers fought in World War II.
Now, people who are able-bodied train for months, years to get the fitness, to get the grit to be able to go through it because the conditions are hard as well. And you've done it twice?
Yeah, so we're talking 100% humidity, we're talking torrential rain, we're talking mud, we're talking 30, 35 degree heat.
How?
And one of the only benefits of doing it is I've heard it's got great views. So,
Yeah.
Apparently,
When you get to
so
the
you
top,
don't even get that
That's
part.
why I went back
Why
the
are you
second
doing
time.
it, bro?
I went back the second time to get the views.
you missed them the first.
Very
Where was the motivation coming from to do the Kokoda Trail and take us through what 96 kilometres in those conditions is?
For the first time, the motivation to do it, I'd always been pretty patriotic growing up and always had a great interest in the history of our soldiers and our diggers and wanted to experience something that they'd experienced. And you hear a lot of the stories about over there, and guys are walking that track with legs blown off, with their eyesight gone from shrapnel, all sorts of different injuries. And I go, well, if I'm fit and able, first of all, if I walk it, I'm not going to have anyone shooting at me, which is a bonus because I don't have to spot them in the jungle.
True.
And why not give myself that opportunity to pay my respects and get the perspective of what those guys sacrificed for our country? So that was my main reason to do it. We also did it to raise money for a charity. And therefore, we got a group together, group of 8 of us, and just trained and trained and trained. But over there, the experience was nothing like I expected, as in exceeded all my expectations. But it was also, I describe it as one of the toughest and hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the best. So every single step, everyone else in my group that came over from Australia had to rotate through in guiding me. So
Wait, so holding it or telling you verbally?
telling me. So I had,
Can you give us an example?
so I had 2 poles in each hand, so I didn't use a cane because of the rough terrain.
Mhm.
So I had 2 of those hiking poles that I could put in the side of the track, or if I was going up or down, someone would move that pole and say, okay, put your foot next to that pole, if it was, say, a really, really small platform. But for an example, Ben, your next step is with your left foot, 45 degrees to your left, 30 centimetres high, up over a tree root, down onto a rock.
Wow.
Multiply that by 96 kilometres, it soon becomes a bloody long trip.
Yeah. How long did it take to complete?
7 days, 7 nights.
Yeah.
Normally, on average, you'd spend between 8 and 10 hours on the track a day. And we were spending between 10 and 14.
Okay.
To make up for the lost time.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
slow.
Apart from Kokoda, I heard there is a record that you hold as well. That's all I've been told by Dylan.
There's a couple.
Okay.
There's a couple. One of them you might be alluding to would be being the first blind person to ever water ski race in the Southern 80, which is one of the fastest and most dangerous water skiing races in the world. 80 kilometres along the Murray River at Echuca. And you've got 125 bends, you're passing boats, you're getting passed by boats, and you're doing speeds up over 140 k's an hour.
Oh my God! Wait. So you're blind, right?
I am.
You're holding onto the back of a boat water skiing,
Mm.
and you're going around corners for 80 kilometres at 150 k's an hour.
Yep.
Talk me
Yeah.
through how the fuck you do that, and that is petrifying.
Petrifying, yes,
Oh,
up until the moment the boat takes off. Then I just have to concentrate and hold on for dear life. But I absolutely love it. The way we do it, I had to replace my eyesight with something for safety, even just to get the okay to do the race. And the first year I did it, I competed in the disability class. So there's a disability class, which is a 20k race.
is that like people sit skiing and one-legged and stuff?
Yeah, so sit skiing. There hasn't been a sit skier for a long time racing.
Okay.
The different disabilities would be, I think one guy's got half a calf muscle.
Okay, yeah.
A couple of guys have like a dead arm or one arm, things like that.
Couple of frauds then? Couple of...
Yeah.
Oh, well,
No,
I'm not going
who
to judge.
cares?
Not going to judge.
If you want a disability, doing this blind's pretty
Yeah,
hard,
yes,
boys.
That's it. And so I did that the first year, competed in the disability class, but all disabilities compete against each other. Doesn't matter what your disability is.
Okay, cool.
And then the next year, I competed in the able body class in the full 80k course, and I had to replace my eyesight with something. So we got a helmet modified so that the observer in the boat, who's responsible for the skier behind the boat and faces the skier, has a radio that he can talk to me through and then tell me when the corner's starting, left, right, whether it's sweeping, whether it's sharp, whether I have to move a certain way, whether
Sort of
there's
like
boats coming.
A rally car driver assist the guy who
A
sits in the
navigator.
passenger
Yep.
seat?
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
Only problem is he's facing the opposite way to me, so his lefts and rights are different,
Oh, yeah. Just to make things
Oh.
easy.
just to make things easy.
So when you're skiing, like, what's the fastest you've gone behind a boat, by the way? Do you
Yeah,
know?
probably around 140.
That's so quick.
So quick.
So what are you thinking about? Just what's coming into your ear? Like, or do you kind of feel the water a lot more now that you are vision impaired?
Yeah, I'm feeling the water. I'm not waiting to hear an instruction,
Okay.
and I can feel when the boat's starting to turn through the rope. I can feel when the boats hit waves through the rope even before I hit the waves, because I'm 65, 70 metres behind the boat. So I'm a long way behind, and you catch up quick, but you've got that split second where you feel the boat hit the waves and you start to prepare your body. You move your body into a position so you can take those waves, and there's always the risk. Not that you want this to happen, but I can't rely wholly and solely on those instructions through my earpiece in case something happens with the radio, the helmet, something like that. So I've still got to have 100% confidence in my ability to ski without getting those
Yeah.
instructions.
This year, I was obviously lucky enough to play the Australian Open, and I had one really long match. Went for 3 hours in the sun. I remember I was on court. I'm serving, and I lost concentration for a bit because I looked up, and I saw you sitting in the front row watching my tennis match for 3 hours, and I'm thinking to myself,
How
what the
bored
fuck
must he be?
what the fuck is he watching? What is going on in his head? So in that instance, it's same as when you're in a big environment. Like, what were you doing during that match? I know you love footy. I know you love sport. You love going to watch. Talk us through that process.
It's obviously harder to get as much out of watching a tennis match as when I could see.
Yeah.
But I soon find a way to then imagine what's going on and fill in the pieces. Whether you look that good out there or not, I don't know. But you look good in my head.
I look good.
So
Yeah.
you
So-
paint a picture of what's happening in front of you.
What you do from the sounds that you're hearing, from everything that you're hearing.
So even like the crowd, like, oh,
Yep.
it's like a close
So you've
shot.
got that. You've
Yeah.
got, I can hear when, say, Dill hits a clean shot.
Yeah, off the
then
racket.
The best thing with the wheelchair tennis is there's 2 bounces. So I get twice the time to hear where the ball's gone instead of just 1 bounce. And then if I don't hear a hit back, therefore the other person's missed it. That's a point to Dylan.
Yeah,
And then if I hear out from one of the linesmen, that means he's missed. So I'm putting all that together, even though I don't know exactly where the ball's landing every time. So I was there for that and there to support.
Good on you, mate.
What a man. That's unbelievable. Let's talk about your current lifestyle. You said that when you were at school, you had a basic understanding of the school ground, so you could sort of, before you ran into the pole, walk yourself to certain classes. What does your life look like now? Because you walk in with a stick, so you have a walking stick for day-to-day life,
Yep.
especially in new environments. When you open the front door, do you need a stick?
To my house?
Yes.
No.
Okay, take us through from the moment you walk through the door. How familiar are the settings that you can walk without bumping, nudging, anything?
Very familiar, unless something has been moved.
Right.
Has that happened?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
the vacuum cleaner gets left out.
I'm
or,
coming over. I'm going to put some booby traps.
Oh, you would. Yeah, so unless something gets moved, normally all good. But even from the little things like we've got light grey tiles in our house, and
Or so the missus thought. Or,
Well,
or so someone told you.
So I got told.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
They're bright pink.
They're
Could be
actually
any
hot
colour.
pink, brother.
But because they're a light colour, we then got a dark coloured couch.
Okay.
So therefore, I can, now that couch hasn't moved for 2 years, so I know where that is. That shape that I see, that dark shape, is that couch always in the same spot.
Okay.
So the more things I can have that have contrast, the better. We've got a light coloured bench, so we went and got dark coloured plates.
How long does it take you to get that familiarity with a setting?
Not long.
Okay.
Surprisingly, I would actually would have thought that it would take longer, and some places do if they've got little bits that you have to learn and all little tricky bits and pieces. But if a environment's pretty clean and straightforward and well set out, then it doesn't take too long at all.
And you said we.
I did say we.
So explain the we for us.
The we is me and my fiancée Amy.
So you met Amy when?
4 years ago.
Okay, so you were already vision impaired when you met her. All right.
Never
so,
seen her. Don't know
so
what she
you-
looks like.
Okay, I want to know what that meant. Like,
Yeah,
okay, so you actually
seriously.
don't. Do you get people to describe what Amy looks like to you, or do you ever?
I have had, but it wasn't a determining factor for me.
Of course. Yeah,
So the story behind it is Amy and I we were talking, we were chatting away, and Amy changed her profile picture. She'd been to a wedding, apparently she looked good, changed her profile picture. 3 other guys then get straight on, see her change her profile picture, message her, let's catch up. And she's like, well, Ben hasn't even mentioned the fact that I've changed my profile picture. But he still keeps talking to me the same way.
Wow.
So he actually doesn't care about
Something
what I look
beautiful
like.
about that.
That's so nice.
So he values more what's on the inside of me than these other guys do.
Can I just say for the record, you are batting way above. She is beautiful. Coincidentally, I know you can't see.
See, I can't agree with that.
She is. When I met her, I
You
was
can
like,
speak for a personality,
Amy
but
is
Yeah,
a
100%.
babe as well. I want to know how that makes you feel though, like that you can't see her. I know that you want to have kids one day. You will not be able to see their face, I guess. Do you dwell on that? Is it something that you think about?
There's definitely times I'm not going to be that person that sits here and goes, you know what, I don't have a bad day, don't have a bad moment, don't have a
Yeah.
frustrating moment. I think we all need to be able to put our hand up from time to time and be vulnerable and go, yeah, sometimes life can be shit, and sometimes you can get down about it, and there are those moments where friends of ours are having kids and, oh, here, Ben, hold our new baby, and you sort of have that half a second moment where you go, this is going to be hard. It's going to be amazing, but it's going to be hard, and it's going to be frustrating. So those sort of things that haven't happened are going to be really tough. Getting married and not being able to see her walk down the aisle, those sort of things are going to be tough. But we're also doing things to work around that.
Is your condition, formerly known by doctors as blind, is that hereditary? Is there a chance that you could pass it on to your children?
Yes, it is hereditary.
Okay.
No, I can't pass it on to my kids.
Okay, how does that work?
So it's passed down through the female.
The females.
So
Same as colour blindness.
so my nana, my mum's mum,
Mm-hmm.
she's got the gene, but
So she was the carrier, but you can't pass
so
it on.
she's the carrier.
Yeah.
She passed it on to mum. The female guarantee passes it on to all of her kids.
Okay.
I can't pass it on to mine. My sister will pass it on to hers. If my sister has 3 girls, it's more likely not to affect those girls, but it's more but it will keep spreading.
Yeah, the
If
carrier
she's
continues.
got 2 boys, if she has 2 boys, my sister, the gene will stop there in our family, but they're more likely to be affected by it.
Yeah.
But my 2 uncles, my mum's brothers,
Mhm.
they've got the gene, both can see perfectly fine.
Could that change at any minute?
Not really.
Okay.
Potentially it could. I mean, I'm no doctor, no scientist,
Yeah.
but they do say that generally with this condition, it presents between sort of 15 and 20.
Had you had sex before you lost your vision?
No.
Okay. So you've only ever got into that world post being vision impaired?
Yes.
Do you reckon that makes you better?
I never need to turn the light on.
Well, while you say that, are your electricity bills cheaper?
100%.
Yes.
I am the energy company's
You
first
are!
customer.
You must be.
Oh, and no one is ever happier staying at a crappy hotel than Ben. This place is great.
When you,
Hey, I can tell a crappy hotel when I'm there. Don't you worry.
Right.
But that means you started dating when you dating people when you were vision impaired. How did you always tell? Because obviously I want people to point people to Ben's Instagram, but also we're going to put some videos up so you can see Ben himself. He is a rooster.
Yeah, this
he
is all
is
being filmed.
Absolutely beautiful man. And you, probably went pretty well growing up with the ladies. But did they always know that you were blind, or did you tell them straight up? Or
Some I did, some I didn't. If it was going to be something serious, then I would also always tell them straight up. And the one thing I'd convince myself at 18 that I was never going to be deserving of a girlfriend.
yeah, of course.
I'd convince myself that
I did the same thing.
Yeah, there was no way that someone should want to be with someone who can't see when they can have someone who can see. They're going to be able to give so much more to a relationship. It's not fair. I actually broke up with my current girlfriend and said, you deserve better. And convinced myself then and there for 2 years not to be with anyone. And the other promise I made to myself was, you will never make the first move. As in, different if it's just like you're having a bit of fun. But if I was going to go into something serious, I will never make the first move, and I will never say, I love you. I will never say, do you want to go out with me? I was going to leave that up to them because I didn't want the sympathy vote. If I ask someone out, I don't want the, oh, well, I better say yes because I don't want to hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
So that's where
So
it
you
got to
felt
there.
that love, but you didn't feel the courage to say it, thinking that that person will only say it back because they feel sorry for you.
Not that they would say it back to me just because of the sympathy vote,
Yeah.
but I didn't want that option. As in, they may say it genuinely. If I said, will you go out with me? They might go, yes, of course. Or they might go, yes, because of the sympathy vote.
Well,
I didn't want that option to be there.
Well, what about the biggest question that you asked your now fiancée? Did you wait for her to ask to marry you?
No, because we'd have that conversation beforehand.
You jumped in.
And I was pretty confident it was going to be yes.
And when you were growing up, I know like when you were going to house parties and that, I know you had a bit of a type, female-wise, like everyone has a bit of a type. Was there a special way that your mates used to communicate to you to make sure that you were getting pushed down the right path with the
Something
right
you
ladies?
used to be attracted to, yeah.
Yeah.
There had to be a code.
Talk about the code.
Had to be a code. Because when I'm going to house parties, whether I was going to nightclubs, if we're all dancing in a group, then you might get sort of pushed a certain way, and all of a sudden you're dancing with a girl, and this is complete trust in my mates, and they could have gone any which way with this, but I had to pick certain ones to let in on the code and say, I trust you with this tonight. I don't trust anyone else that we've gone out with, but I trust you with this.
Good.
If they're above a 7, then come through and give me a tap on the shoulder. If they're below a 7, come through and give me a tap on the waist. That's just all right. Turn around. See you later. Have a good night. Keep dancing.
Good.
Bye-bye.
What are you out of 10 then?
Well,
9.5.
I haven't seen myself in the mirror lately. It might have gone down.
Well, but what if, I mean, there's some real trust in your friends then. What if you're chatting to a 9 and your mate's got a crush on that 9
Ooh.
and he comes over and touch you on the waist so he can get in and snake you?
Hey, that could have happened.
Yeah, probably
I tell you who would
did.
have done that? Me, because I would have said, I can't reach your shoulder, bro. I was trying.
Oh, yeah.
I get the
You tap me hip every day of the week.
Yeah, I thought I would. And you meet a lot of people, all right? And I would love to know what the process is like of trying to describe what they look like. Does that make sense? So when you meet someone, do you paint a picture in your head about what they look like?
Not consciously, but I do it. So
Okay.
think about it like this.
Have you ever seen Dylan Alcott?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, you know
But-
he's in a wheelchair, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't know how to
But the
describe his
funniest thing
face.
is, I have the perfect picture.
Yeah,
you know what
that's
I mean?
so funny.
Like, as in-
what do you? Yeah, you've gone to see his tennis matches. What does Dylan look like in your head?
Good looking rooster.
No, 100%.
Oh, come on! You obviously can't see.
Uh,
You must be blind.
Oh.
no, see. Hang on. Before I get there,
Yeah.
let me go back a step. Picture when you read a book, right? And then you see the movie come out 2 years later, and that character doesn't look the same as you picture
Every
the character
movie.
from the book.
Every movie.
What a great example.
Now, you don't consciously, when you're reading that book, go, I'm going to picture that person like this.
No, but I
It
knew
just
exactly
happens.
what Hermione Granger looked like in my head,
Exactly.
and I was very happy with him. Also.
So
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I painted mine before the movies came out. I
Exactly.
knew what
So-
the Philosopher's Stone looked like.
So when I meet someone, I don't consciously go, "Oh, Angus, I haven't met someone lately, or I haven't. The last 4 people I've made blonde, so I'm going to make Angus have dark hair." Like, I don't do it that way.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I think you might have a bit of bias to know what I look like. Maybe people have told you, but we've hung out a bit. You've met Angus today, have
Oh,
you
yeah.
not?
Yes, correct.
I need you to describe what Angus looks like. I want
And
hair,
it's so weird because
features, weight, beard. What do you reckon?
I've been making eye contact with you for the past 30, 40 minutes,
Have
forgetting
we?
that you came.
but also, Ben makes eye contact with us. You keep changing who you're talking to.
Yeah,
You're very
you're
good
looking
at
to
that.
sleep in the eye. Okay, what do I look like? What about my skin color?
Palish.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
He doesn't like that, but he is.
Or if taken white.
I was trying to be nice.
Yep.
I'd go dark brown hair,
Yep.
It's a light brown, but
Light
yeah.
brown?
Yep.
brown hair.
Mhm.
Not super long hair,
How's it cut? What is it?
short on the sides,
Yep.
not super straight on top. Like, the hair is not perfectly straight.
My hair cut is quite similar to yours, but yes, yours is very
nailed it.
neat
It's short on
and
the
combed
sides.
across. Mine's very messy up the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a bit wavy.
Mm.
Are
Are you sure you can't?
I was going to say, is it fraud?
Cool, Barbara. Nah.
That's amazing because it's pretty bang on. Can I?
Do you reckon he's a good looking dude or not?
You can be honest. I mean, you have already.
I think he goes all right.
There you go. Damn it.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
I'm going to punch some questions at you. I want real quick fire answers.
All right, I'll strap myself in.
I think I know the answer to this. I think we all do by this point. What do you wish you could see most? You get 5 seconds of vision. What do you want to be in front of you?
I want it to be my kids when I have them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Can you see in your dreams?
Can I see my dreams? Okay, that's not going to take 5 seconds to answer. Is that all right?
Go, you got 30.
All right, so 50% of my dreams, it's like I am now, looking through, like, I can't see, but that dream is like watching a movie with a blind character in it. I say what I'm saying, I feel what I'm feeling, but the dream is still clear.
Wow.
Wow.
50% of my dreams, I can still see perfectly fine, and I'm as old as I am now, but I can see perfectly fine, and I'm first person in the dream.
Do you think it's easier to be born blind or to lose your sight like you have been?
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're born blind, you wouldn't know what you're missing. Every single day I know what I'm missing, but I can also be described, hey, the sky's really blue today. If you're born blind, what's blue?
Yeah.
Would you go back to that classroom and change what happened to you?
No.
Why?
Why? Because it's opened up a whole new life. And it's not a worse life. It's not a more negative life. It's just different. And if it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't have happened.
Great answer.
Do you always sit down to pee or do you sometimes take a risk and have a shot?
Great question. Sometimes I get my confidence right up and stand up.
Yeah.
Funny story. And
Such a good question. Hit me with this story.
so I don't really want to name the organisation.
No,
but-
please.
Name and shame.
So I did a course through Vision Australia.
Mhm.
And while I was doing this course, up until this point, I'd always sat down. Right?
Mhm.
And I thought, if there's ever a time to practice, it's when you're in a building full of other blind people. Because if you miss, they can't blame you. You're not the only blind person in the building. So I had a week to practice, and all of a sudden I got my technique up and listen to Bubbles.
Do you use the one finger trick that you use in the cups?
No.
Do you get offended when people say, "Mate, I'm blind," as in drunk?
No. Because I still use that terminology.
Do you use
too.
it?
I use it yourself.
Good man.
I don't care. I'm not a politically correct kind of person.
Yeah, good.
Do you dress yourself in the morning and how do you know what you're looking like and putting on?
Yes, I do dress myself, and I do it by always having a really well organised wardrobe.
Mm.
And so I'll have described to me what that T-shirt is, what colour it is, and then I'll learn that T-shirt by feel. So this T-shirt has a certain pattern here, certain pattern on the back,
Oh,
so I know
cool.
that's a green T-shirt. So different jeans, these jeans have ripped in them, so therefore they're light blue and they feel a certain way. So I know, and then because I've been able to see, I put that picture together in my head and go, do I reckon that'll look good? I mean, occasionally I get that outfit on where I walk out and I go, all right, see you later, Ames, I'm off. And she goes, hang on a minute, turn around, try again. So
Right.
there's the odd
Shirt's
time where
in
it
the wrong
doesn't
way.
work or,
Yeah.
or just those colours don't match or something like that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, yeah, all good.
Before you had a disability, what did you think of disability? Did you know anything?
I'd never met anyone.
You didn't even cross your
Oh,
mind
wow.
about anything.
Obviously, I knew of disability, but I'd never met anyone with a disability. Once I was then labelled with a disability, you just wonder, what's this going to mean for me? What is this going to limit my potential? Is it going to limit what I can achieve? Is it going to limit the way people look at me? Is that stereotype, that generalisation of disability? Because it is such as much as we have to use the word in Australian culture, you do have to think that this is has a negative connotation to it.
Mhm.
So as soon as you hear the word disability, it's less ability, it's all that. So it took me a moment to go, well, although that's the label, I don't have to let that label dictate what I can and can't do.
Good man.
The last question is actually going to be a question that we're not even ready for, or we don't know what it is. And of course, it's a thing we're going to be doing on the podcast. It's a bowl of uncomfortable, because for people to get comfortable with disability, they need to become uncomfortable with
Yeah,
it. at
got to
moments.
normalise it by talking about it.
Exactly right. So we, of course, you can't see the question, so I've gone to the liberty of drawing the question out for you.
So we've
I
asked
don't know Braille. My apologies.
Yes.
Do you know Braille?
So, no, not really.
Not really.
No.
I can read and write it, but because of technology, I don't don't
It's
need to.
becoming redundant.
Yeah,
See you,
interesting.
Braille.
Bye.
But these questions were sent in by our listeners who are about to come on board, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like anything that they want to know.
Yeah. So it's kind of the morbid curiosity of people with disability, and we told people that you were blind and they wanted to know some certain questions about them.
Great.
The question that you got pulled out makes me uncomfortable asking. I guess that is the game. Have you ever contemplated suicide?
So the thought had crossed my mind,
Mm.
but see, I think there's a difference between thinking about it and thinking
There
about
is.
doing it.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I've thought about it, but I haven't thought about doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was
So-
that was it in the initial stages of when it first happened?
No, it was probably 2 years down the track
Okay.
when I had my lowest moment. So to paint the picture, it was, so 2 years after I lost my eyesight, I'd broken my ankle in 4 places water skiing. So I spent my 18th birthday, which I'd dreamed of for so long, because that was going to be my ticket to independence, ticket to driving, ticket to becoming an adult. I spent my 18th birthday not at school, at home, in a wheelchair, blind.
Mm.
So that was a pretty low moment. And I didn't think about committing suicide, but I thought maybe life would be easier if I wasn't here. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So I never thought about acting on it, but obviously the thought I feel crosses your mind, but it hasn't crossed my mind since. Don't get me wrong, you have fucking shit moments, but it hasn't been any more than that. And maybe looking back now, maybe that was just a shit moment. Maybe it wasn't contemplating suicide. Maybe it was just that thought crossing your head. So I do a lot of work. I'm an ambassador for a event called Ski for Life, which is promoting wellbeing, mental health and suicide prevention. So I'm around that conversation a lot, and I can confidently say that I've never contemplated taking my own life.
Yeah.
But when you talk about suicide, you think about the effects, so therefore you think about it.
Yeah.
Can I
Thanks
just
for that
say,
honesty, mate.
mate, you're a very impressive young man. How old are you?
24.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
crazy.
I, from the bottom of my heart, and someone else has a disability, is someone that, even I look up to, brother. Just your outlook and the way that you've got on with life and your family life and the way that you and your partner interact with each other. And, mate, it's awesome. And
Thanks,
I know we, as a community, people with disability, but also this podcast isn't for people with disabilities, for everyone. It's a eye-opener. But into the lives of what people can do, and I had a bias towards people who are blind because I'm not blind, and I'm like, that life is way harder than my life. I thought.
Yeah, in your personal
But
opinion.
you
Yeah.
would probably think, mate, at least I can still walk around and go to people's houses and get upstairs, things that you think that I can't do. And it literally, I've learned so much from you. I really have, and I hope more people have.
I've learned a lot about
Yeah, me
hearing
too.
impairment, but I've also learned most from this.
Hearing
that you're-
impairment?
You just said hearing impairment.
Oh, sorry.
Do not edit that out. Make sure that makes it.
Aren't you deaf? Yes.
Let's start episode 3.